Okay, I know, Rosmira, you turn on the video. Right, how are you guys? 1 week break, and it's not really a break anyway. The COVID-19, we are break all the way. So how's it going? How's life going? Everything's okay? Keep up, yeah. Keep up with the new normal, and especially in observing this SOP of COVID-19. So, how's the situation in China?
In China, it's all okay.
Hmm. Okay. Hopefully, everywhere is okay.
Yeah.
And okay. Before we before we continue with the topics discussion, I would like to ask about the case study and the case study articles. All right. So everyone, so how are you guys doing? Have you been decided the title or the topics that you think that you want to do? Or perhaps I just make a list and so that you can list the title for the articles. Is that okay for you? If that is okay, I mean, it's better for everyone. So after the class, I'll make the list available in the WhatsApp group, and then you just list down the title related to motivational issues in teaching and learning that you are interested of doing, yeah, and so that everyone can check whether the title that they plan to do is uh, similar titles or different titles. Well, we hope that we don't do similar titles unless the title is. I mean, if the title is happen to be similar, I'm sure that still can be done because the context is different. You know, the situation is different, and definitely the examples will be different as well. Okay. All right. Today I would like to discuss about the cognitive components of motivation, and slowly we can learn about this one. Yeah. Hang on. All right. So this is the slides that I expect you to read through, and today we're going to discuss it and see how what we can understand about the cognitive components and the biological components as we have decided, as we have discussed, related to how the body reaction, right, how the body reaction physically to the stimulus or to the condition, certain condition, and of course, in understanding the indicator, so the brain will try to interpret all those indicators in order to understand what is really happening to the person. So continuing to that situation, so we want to see how the cognitive components, in this sense, what is really happening cognitively, right? Before this, we were talking about the brain activity, but now we're focusing more on the cognitive. So how the brain works on the processing the information, right? The processing the information. So by understanding this, at least we can get to know in what way a person develop such a drive in themselves, yeah, in doing things. Now, cognitive. Just slowly to look at the slides. Yeah. Associated when we talk about cognitive processes, yeah, we can relate to the activity of knowing, thinking, perceiving, abstracting, organizing, conceptualizing the world. So this is how we we do in our mind. Yeah, try to know something, right? In order to know something, we actually involve in the thinking activities, abstracting, organizing, and conceptualizing the environment. So, in order by doing this, at least we can understand our environment. The amount. One thing so interesting to note here is the amount of information are limitless. And so, by facing that kind of situation where the information is so limitless, we have to have cognitive structures that can assist us dealing with such huge information around us. Yeah? So, because without this ability, we find it difficult to understand the situation, the environment, the way we make decision, for example, and the way we make decision. So before we come to a conclusion what to do and then what kind of behavior that we want to do, so we need to utilize all the information available around us, yeah, before we can come to a conclusion, what so-called the decision making. This is what I want to do, not that one, but this is the one, right? This is so this ability requires some sort of thinking skills, thinking skills. So that's why in processing the information, we actually managing the information, right? By like ordering, structuring. So this is one kind of skills that the mind should have. Organizing skills, cognitive structure. So we develop by utilizing our sensory system. So those are the things, right? In order for us to understand of the problems that we were facing, so we're actually utilizing our sensory systems. So, like for example, now what we have, 5 sensories, right? The sight, hearing, smell, touch, everything. So this is the feeling that we need to utilize in order to understand the situation, right? So, like for example, before we can decide, like in the colder situation, maybe your friends, students from China, where you have a temperate uh, a season weather. Yeah, you have winter, you have summer, you have springs, and then you have what was that? The other one? You have winter, you have summer, you have spring, you have autumn.
Autumn.
Yeah. So those are 4 different types of situation where requires people to learn and be in order to survive, right? So because when we are in the winter season, so we have to learn how to survive during winter, and then when it comes to summer, no, springs, so we have to learn as well, right? To adjust ourselves, and then to manage ourselves so that we can survive during springs. And then when it comes to summer, again, the same thing. We have to adjust our understanding, our skills, our actions in order to survive during summer. And the same way goes when it comes to autumn. So this is the situation. We develop by utilizing our sensory system, inborn ability, and personal recovery. So those are the situation. I mean, the cognition systems, cognition systems or cognitive structure that help people survive in the environment. Now, look at this one. Franken, 2007, he mentioned about children are motivated to develop cognitive structures because they need to interact with and master the environment. So normally what we do, what we think, and then how we decide it's always related to the environment, right? How we make ourselves available, how we make ourselves survive in the specific environment, and then finally we can live in the more proper and more effective manner. So that's what we mean, because since in terms of the children cognitive development, psychologists mention about how the children are the motivated being, where they engage in the learning the environment in order to understand the environment. So those are the things that force people, to act to a certain direction or to certain amount of action. Now, this is, again, I think you can go back to cognitive development. Cognitive development. Have you taken the educational psychology or human development? Have you? Some of you may have taken the, what was that, registered the cognitive psychology, have registered for the educational psychology, any human development. So you can look back to this one where the Piaget mentioned about the cognitive development of humans. So according to Piaget, he mentioned about, he highlighting about the process of assimilation, this equilibrium, and then the accommodation. So how those types of mental activity can help people. It can help people in organizing the environment, like assimilation and accommodation. So assimilation is like assimilating things, like accumulative learning processes. So when people learn something at the beginning, so they find it difficult, not to say difficult per se, but this is more to something new. When they learn something new, they a little bit struggling in understanding the concepts and understanding the structure of those learning. And then slowly, when it comes to the learning, the more sophisticated information, slowly people, I mean, the individuals start to learn how to assimilate the understanding or assimilate the information. Okay, this is related to this, this is related to this, this is related to this. So the assimilating information and becoming more complex and sophisticated information and understanding. But when it comes to the accommodation, there are also situations where during the learning and teaching activities, during the learning activities, people find it something different. This is different. This is not the same from what I am learning now. Must be something different. So during that moment, people actually try to engage in the accommodation processes, accommodation processes. Try to accommodate. with the new structure or with the new information, which is sometimes not really related to the one they are now learning. Like, for example, now we're talking about cognitive development, I mean, cognitive components of motivation. And then sometimes I mentioned about specific research design, which is not to say directly connected to the what we were discussing, but although the like research design may indirectly connected to this, but sometimes when we discussing it, we find it this is not really directly to the one we are discussing now. It's maybe something related to other things. Oh, this is maybe related to the research activities. So we try to accommodate that particular information, right? From creating one concept of information and try to relate with what we are discussing now. So that is what we mean by accommodation. Okay. And then he also mentioned about this equilibrium. So equilibrium and disequilibrium. So when people feeling confusion, okay, that is the where the disequilibrium is manifested. So and then in order to reduce the confusion, yeah, to reduce the confusion, so people start to act, right, start to choose, start to do something in order to reduce the confusion. So before, because this is the like a mental state where people always trying to keep the balance, right? Keep the balance. If we look back to, if we want to reflect to ourselves, in most situation, our mind always in the equilibrium, right? The mental states of ourselves always in the equilibrium state, right? So the when we talk about, we want to compare with equilibrium and disequilibrium is related to how we understand certain situations. Sometimes we feel confused and try to figure out what is really happening, what is really going on. So this is something that you want, we trying to understand. So once we understand what we were learning, then we come back to the mental state where we feel happy, we feel our mind feel relaxed. So that is the indicator to show the differences between disequilibrium and equilibrium, right? So in our mind, always like this. So when we, like for example, when we selecting or when we want to choose which one, whether I want to go here or whether I want to go here, or whether I want to go there. So those are the situation where we now engage in what so-called the mental state, this equilibrium mental state. Before finally we decide why we go there, why not we go here. So that is how the act is really happening in the mind. So the source of motivations normally comes from the discrepancies between the individual can comprehend and what the individual need to comprehend. Some misunderstanding for some, right? Some misunderstanding, like I said, for some people can becomes a source of drive, source of drive to do more. But for some people, it depends on the characteristics of the person anyway. Yeah. So for some people, the discrepancies sometimes created something like a demotivated condition. Demotivated condition. I don't want to think so much about this, right? So it make me headache. I don't want to think about that. So that's why I say this always come back to the person, the characteristics of the person. Sometimes people can transform the discrepancies, right? The discrepancies or the confusion becoming a source of motivation, right? But some they feel that like this is the problems, just a problems, a normal problems. Not to say need to be solved, but this is a normal problem. And then sometimes they didn't create anything, and then that's why for some people this is not as a source of motivation, right? Nothing different. So just a matter of, I mean, they think that the confusion, the discrepancies, is just a matter of life. No need to be, worried, and then we don't need to do anything else, but try to get along with it. So that's why for some people, they really can create the situation as a source of motivation. Well, before, that's why sometimes we find people, they are so determined, right? Before they can understand a certain thing, before, like, for example, learning in the subjects, learning in topics, when they're still struggling to understand the topics, right? That sometimes create more energy within themselves. I really want to master the topics, right? I really want to master the topics. I won't stop from trying before I master the topics. So for some people, they can create this as a source of motivation, but some, they just get along with it. Okay, they just got to get along with it. So that's why we can see less action. The frequency of the action. Everything is low, right? Because they didn't create that as a source of motivation. Now, this is I just highlight about this one, yeah. Categories and labels. How people categorize themselves as a hardworking person, right? Hardworking person. So, if we have that kind of concept about ourselves, yeah. So we label ourselves. We categorize ourselves as the, like, for example, we think that we have a very strong determination. So that will affect to the way we consider things, right? The way we consider things. So normally, again, this is also related to how our thinking, or perception about ourselves. If we think that we are a loser, so we can expect the action that we will be taking at the end, right? If we are losers, so I don't need to spend so hard. Why do I need to spend so hard and so much energy? Because I always a loser. So that's how really affect to the types of action that we will be taking. Now, that's why in understanding the source of motivation, so we also consider about the beliefs, the attitudes, and the values, and the beliefs, the attitudes, and the values that we have. So that's why, in order to improve the student's thinking or the person's thinking, so we need to consider the beliefs, the attitudes, and the values of the person, right? So now let's see this, for example. Some beliefs, attitudes, values result from learning, which is imitation, yeah, sometimes through imitation, and also from cognitive processes, active construction, learning through imitation, normally from like observational learning theory. We look back from the observational learning theory, how people learn through observation. So as a teacher, as an educator, of course, we have to show a good example, right? A good example. If we say, like, for example, we are a teacher, okay, or an educator, we need to show a good sign or a good behavior or a good attitude as a learner, right, as a learner, so that our students or our learner can learn from us. Wow, my educators, it depends on how we define ourselves. If we are like a parents, parents, uh, showing example, a good example to our children is very, very critical, right? Showing like the concepts of cleanliness, cleanliness, the concepts of hardworking, the concepts of social behave, this kind of example. So we have to make sure that they learn something from the positive and expected examples, right? So that they can develop some sort of their beliefs and their attitudes and their values in the expected direction. And also, don't forget, another way how people learn is through active construction. So they develop their own belief, they develop their own attitudes and values from the cognitive processes. Okay. So in other words, what we need to understand here is how we can change with the behavior, right? How we can change the behavior by changing their beliefs, their attitudes, and their values. So beliefs, like I said just now, how they believe themselves as a person, as a student, okay, how they believe their ability, about their competencies. So these things requires a specific understanding, right? Before they can develop their own belief, what we expected, as we expected. Okay, we expect that the our students, our children can construct their own belief, the positive beliefs about themselves. They know that they are capable of doing things. They have the confidence. They believe that if they do this, he will get this. If he do this, he will get that. So this kind of beliefs always related to the understanding about themselves. And then by having that belief, it also comes to the next level, which is attitude. So from that understanding, slowly they develop a very aligned attitude. The attitude towards many things. Attitude towards what? Attitude towards this, attitude towards this. And then finally, how they value those things, the belief, the attitudes, then how they value the environment. If they value that just for the sake of what? To please people, and then, not because of themselves. Sometimes, the action that they will produce is sometimes it's not we expect as we expected. So that's what, according to this one, according to this, um, what was that? Peel, 1989. He mentioned about this one, yeah, the relationship between beliefs, attitudes, and values. So what we need to understand is, first we need to make sure that they have a very good belief, the positive beliefs, before they can create the positive attitudes. And then these two also related to the values, how they consider the beliefs, the actions. Is it because of my responsibility? Is it because of to please people? So the way they value things also affects to the kinds of action that they will come out with. Now, the one uh, theory mentioning about this one is cognitive dissonance theory. Look at this one, yeah, cognitive dissonance theory. Under this theory, they mentioned about humans. Humans are inclined to process information. So those are the main concept, processing information. Yeah, processing information in such a way that it will be consistent with existing categories, beliefs, attitudes, and values, including stereotypes and behaviors. So sometimes, the theory mentioned about in most cases, right? In most cases, individual trying to ignore information that does not fit with the existing one. Because, cognitive dissonance, the same way like disequilibrium concept, the cognitive dissonance theory is something like mismatch between understanding and the actual situation. So that's how we can understand the cognitive dissonance theory. But in the real situation, right? In the real situation, people are prone to ignore information that does not fit with the existing one. So that's why, when learning new topics, right? We're learning new topics. Normally at the beginning, we a little bit struggle, right? Learning new topics, learning new skills, learning new understanding. Normally we will struggle at the beginning. Why? Because that does not fit with what we have understand, right? That doesn't fit with what I have understand. So because we learn something new. So there is a tendency, according to this theory, it says like people tend to ignore the information. Why they ignore? Because they don't want to create dissonance, right? They don't want to headache themselves. That's why they tend to ignore the information, the new information, which does not fit with the existing one. Existing one means something that they already know. Okay, when learn something new, something like, oh man, I have to process again, I have to understand again, I have to learn again. This make me headache, especially when it comes to this situation where the educators, the teachers fail to address this issue. Okay, where the teachers or the educators fail to address this, something like teaching based on the student's ability, teaching based on the prior knowledge of the student. So fail to relate to the prior knowledge of the students. So those can only accelerate, right, the situation where the person will ignore the new information, right, because they don't want to headache themselves. That's the situation. That's why as a teacher, as an educator, we need to make sure that before we introduce the new skills, the new understanding, new topic, we need to make sure that we make connection between their pre-existing knowledge, their prior knowledge with the new one, so that they can see the connection. All right, by looking at the connection, then they won't feel the dissonance in their mind, something like assimilation and accommodation processes, right? Remember that concept, the assimilation and the accommodation processes. In fact, sometimes they can also engage in association processes, right? Try to associate with their existing understanding and with their new topics of learning. So they try to associate. If we as an educators or teachers able to make connection, the processes will be much more easier for the learner. Okay. Now that is the situation. Now, because how people's behavior when they have already committed to an action that is inconsistent with their cognition, right? So this is sometimes contradicted because they don't like it. People don't like it. We just don't like it. Making ourselves headache, because that's why dissonance theory concerned with self-regulation and executive function of mind. So how we can create. There are also studies, if you learn about cognitive psychology, they mention about the executive function of mind, the executive function of mind. The most important parts in thinking is the executive function, right? The executive function. How able the individual utilizing all the information available, right? Utilizing all the information available in their mind. So that is the most important. Sometimes, like for example, learning strategies, yeah? Learning strategies, information seeking. So sometimes we need to understand by training them in mastering the learning strategies, information seeking, that can help them in learning. So if we fail to do this, like now, in our system, sometimes it's like what they call it, exam oriented, right? Exam oriented, exam oriented. You just fill up, like fill up the cups, fill up the information in the mind of the students. You just teach them this, and that. But sometimes we fail to consider that is not the main purposes of learning. Okay, because the main purposes of learning is how the individual or the students can learn how to self-regulate themselves, right? Self-regulate their learning. That is the most important part, as compared to filling up the cup and filling up the knowledge in their mind. You just, at one stage, they will find it um, uh, a stagnant situation, because you keep on filling up the information in their mind, and at one stage they feel they will fill up with the information, and then they don't want to have that anymore. At the end of the day, that can make them, not interested of seeking information. But if we train them how to regulate themselves in terms of learning, how to access to information, how we can make use of the information, these are the skills that we actually need to train them, right? Seeking information skills, utilizing skills, regulate their learning activities. So those are the things I think if we manage to instill or train them, I'm sure they can become a good thinkers, right? Good thinkers, good thinkers. So this is what we want, right? Instead of, not to say good learner, but just accept and absorbing information, yeah, being taught in the classroom. So that's what we don't want to happen, right? Because later on, it is related to the problem solving skills, the thinking skills. If we fail to address this, then we can create the people that not really a problem solvers, not creative thinkers, and related kind of thinking ability. Any question? Any question? Now look at this one, yeah, the implicit theory, right? Again, it is related to beliefs of the person. Hypothesis, models, beliefs that people develop about the world, how we can satisfy their desires. So, like hypothesis, models, this is also the thinking that peoples have, right? Thinkings of that peoples have about their environment. They think about this, they think about this, they think about that. But through experiences, yeah, through experiences, interaction with the environment, and slowly they actually testing out the hypothesis or the understanding or the beliefs about certain things. So that is the interesting part of interaction. Okay, the interaction. So like what we mentioned earlier, like observational learning through modeling, right? How they learn through imitation, how they learn through constructing their information, yeah, their knowledge, and then how they're being educated and being trained by being teach, yeah, in the classroom. So those are the personal experiences, learning experiences through interaction, in order to this, to answer the hypotheses, the models, or the beliefs about the environment. So, oh, now I understand. This is something that I can do. This is something that I cannot do. So the hypothesis, like for example, I can do whatever I want. Okay, I can do whatever I want. That is considered as like, according to this theory, it says like, whatever I want, I can do, I can achieve. So those are considered as hypotheses. Something need to be tested. So through interaction, like I said, through interaction, remember, through teaching and learning, through interaction with parents, with society, with peers, everyone around the world, around the environment. So they slowly learn about the hypothesis. Oh, now I can understand. There are some limitation, right? There are some limitation because sometimes when you do this, you're being punished, or you're being sanctioned with punishment, or rules and regulation, the practices, the social practices, like behaving in the different situation, like behaving, addressing people. So those are the hypotheses. Those days before this, your hypothesis is I can say, I can do, I can choose whatever I want. But now, through interaction, through experiences, slowly we learn. When we address older people, we have some sort of, specific ways of addressing. And then when we do things, we cannot, like stealing people, something's not belong to us. When we take that without permission, it's considered stealing. So we cannot do, because when you steal something, you will be punished with some sort of punishment, right? So those are the things. Slowly we learn about this one. Okay. And then Brunner, 1992, mentioned about expectation, to explain why people with different desires, needs, or experiences would see things differently. So the expectation, again, the way people set the expectation is different from one person to another. So it depends on how you you went through your personal life experiences. So from there, you actually develop your own understanding about your environment, right? The cultures, the practices, everything. And then from there, you develop your expectation. Then something like this, something like that, something like this. But that's why what Bruno mentioned is everyone have a different types of desires or needs or experiences. So everyone is different and unique to themselves. And this is about habits. So you can learn about habits and automatic behavior. For Goldwizard, Bach 2005 mentioned about habits, and then finally becomes automatics. Right? Its origins is intentional or planned behavior. So again, the behavior at the beginning slowly, like intended behavior or planned behavior, but slowly becomes a habit. And then finally, how we can describe the habit is as the automatic behavior, right? Because the process of doing things is done through, over time, from one level one to the next level. Like this one, at the beginning, we plan to what we intend to do. Slowly, after repeating, we don't need a plan anymore. So this is habit. In other words, we call it automatic behavior, right? Now, what make these things interesting is humans can take charge of their own behavior. This is what we mean. So that's why, like brushing teeth. Remember, I gave you the example of brushing teeth. So everyone has a different way, a unique way of brushing, right? Of brushing. Some start from left, start from the top, start from the front, and start from the right. So everyone create that, yeah, and then becoming automatic or habit, right? So that's what make things so interesting, you know, because everyone creating the same way. Although, like for example, maybe we were being taught in the classroom when we start our schooling life, like in primary, I mean in preschools, yeah. We have been taught about how to brush, the best way to brush our teeth, but you know, that's how we being taught. But the way we understand it, the way we uh, create the unique way of brushing teeth is one that is different from one person to another, right? So that's why how we create that understanding that make our behavior of brushing different is also is connected to our thinking ability, yeah, our thinking ability, how we manage our information, you know, how we utilize the information, and then before we can create our own way of brushing, yeah, our own way of brushing. Sometimes from like you know, thinking of the information, try to understand the information. Why? Although we have been trained that we should start with this, we start with right, for example, we start with right, but sometimes throughout the process, we develop our own way, not start from the right, but we start from the left. So that's what we try to understand this one. So because why we choose that? Because it's a specific understanding that the mind that guide us, yeah, in producing such a behavior. All right. So again, it depends on our belief, attitudes, values, and implicit theories, you know, how we have that in ourself, right? In ourself, the belief, the attitudes, the values, and the understanding about the environment. Now, one theory like attribution theory, attribution theory is concerned with how humans perceive the cause of behavior. The attribution theory. Weiner in 2005 mentioned about how the attribution theory that should be understood. Yeah. Now look at this one. Yeah. The way we see environment, the way we see certain things, yeah, the way we see certain situation, it depends on how we attribute, yeah, how we attribute. So that's why Haider, 1958, earlier than Weiner, 2005, argued that people can be divided into two categories, right? Two categories. So there are people that tend to see or to evaluate the cause of their action from the internal perspective. All right. And then there are also people, right, understand that the cause of their behavior is influenced by the external, right, the external factors. So that's why people, the way people attribute, sometimes from inside and sometimes from outside, they attribute the situation, right? The behavior because of how, why I behaving like this? Because you asked me to do that. But some people, the way they attribute is different in a different way. So the way I behaving like this because I think this is the best way, right? This is the best way. So how we attribute the cause of the behavior will determine, okay, will determine, according to this theory, will determine the source of the behavior. Okay, internal causes is that's why some for some cases, in some cases, internal causes is regarded as intentional and external as an accident. So, you know, internal causes is regarded as intentional because we want it to happen. We want to do it. But external, something like, you know, we don't expect that. That's why they call it as an accident. So we can expect it's something like, you know, we have been forced to do. We have been forced by the teacher. Like, for example, you know, how we attribute the behavior of engaging in the homework, yeah, homework, like exercises or homework. So why? Because my teacher asked me to do. If you don't do, I'll punish you, right? I'll punish you. They giving me no option, you know, giving me no option. I have no option if because the teacher mentioned about if you don't finish the exercises, if you don't do the homework, so you cannot be in my class for the next meeting. So that is the situation. So that's why it's something that you can't say anything. You can't say much about it. But if you think that why did you finish the homework? Why did you do the homework? Why did you do the exercises? Because you know, I think the exercises can give me, right? Can because I think the exercise can give me some understanding, right? Some understanding. Because of that, then I finish the exercises. Because if I don't finish it, I don't understand anything. So it depends on how, yeah. But still, the exercises or the homework is done. But we can evaluate the action by looking at how the causes. Yeah, if it is it's caused by the internal parts, right? It's something like intentional because it shows like the person intentionally want to do, and the other one, the external causes, yeah, the external causes doesn't mean that the exercises is done because I mean intentionally. Sometimes it's because of the force or the expectation from the teachers or from the parents. Have you ever experienced that when you were in the schooling life? You being forced by the teacher to finish the homework, you know, or sometimes you think that you have to do the homework because you want to understand the topic. Have you ever experienced that when you were schooling? Anyone? Can you share us with that experience? And then how would you feel in that kind of situation? Would you like to share with us? I know.
Yes, the experiences that if it's particular, maybe like if I'm the teacher was but uh, topic is something before and would be or that would be so for it.
Mm, mhm. That's yeah. That's another important issues there. You know,
Yes.
like not just um, uh, the how we attribute or the expectation, right? The what we expect from such action or such activity. But it is also related to the importance of how people consider the situation as something like, you know, this is like a reflection or something like a refresher or something related to, um, you know, like something like a repetition, repeating the same activities. It depends. You know, nowadays the school system is so complex. You know, why you know, in most situations, students are not just engaged in the classroom. I mean, formal classroom activities, but they also attending a tuition center, right? A tuition center where they also learn about the topic. That's why sometimes, not just to let the two entity work separately. Yeah. Like school in his way, and then the tuition center on the other way. But in fact, we should integrate them together, right? So that the student won't feel the way that, like Ainur mentioned. This is like a repetition. I've done this in my tuition center activities or exercises. So let's make the action is unintentional, right? Unintentional. You don't want to engage in the activity, but you just engage because of being forced by the teacher. So that's what we try to avoid in most cases, right? So that's why I would suggest that, like, a school entity and then tuition center should work hand in hand. Yeah? So that because this is for the betterment of the students' learning. It's not because of, like, the tuition center. They just don't care, right? They just want to get as much money as they can. If they can produce a good result, the students who attended their center, this is a very good business for them. More people will come because they will track record saying that, most of the students attending this center have achieved the flying colors in their final exam or in their national exam. So they don't bother about the process of learning, whether this is intentionally, whether this is related to the how to create motivation in the students. So that's what I think from this perspective, right? Anyone would agree with that? And then what make more interesting, there are also cases where some teachers, acted on behalf of the tuition center. And then they say, if you don't understand here, okay, you should join this tuition center. Then we can discuss that in the topics in detail, in greater detail in the center. Which is, I think, I don't know, this is related to the ethical consideration, yeah, how they should engage in teaching and learning activities. I've seen that before, yeah. I've seen that before. How the teachers promoting the tuition center, where they were one of the teaching staff in the center. So that's what they say, right? That's what they do. Making lots of money from it. Okay. Yes, please.
Some teachers which
Yeah, that's what I've seen that.
yes, it's true. So, they do that. Doing.
Yeah, I agree. That what we need to consider here is what make them think that way, right? They believe
Yes.
what is their belief? They believe the tuition center is much better than school.
Yeah, it's the confidence in teachers as
Yeah.
well. Right?
I don't know. Maybe we should conduct a study on it, right? Because when we talk about belief, right, and the values, and then the thinking, right, the understanding. So how they construct that, how they see schools as compared to tuition center. What is their belief about the schools? What is their belief about the tuition center, right? So by looking at this, at least we can understand their behavior, why they are behaving so passively in the schools, whereas they're, behaving so actively in the tuition center. We're so active in the tuition center, sharing the knowledge, sharing the skills, sharing the understanding with their friends. But in school, they just keep silently, just follow whatever the teachers ask them to do. So this is, I mean, at least we can understand why the belief, the understanding, that can create different types of behavior among students. Okay, so the same way in the house context, in the home context. So it depends on how they believe in the house environment, right? About the father, about the mother. If they have a brother, about the brother. If they have a sister, about the sister. How they value, how they view the father, the mother, the sister, and the brother in the family. So again, this is related to how they act in the family, yeah, in the family. Sometimes the expectation, for example, so the father is the guidance, the mother is the guidance. So how they value the mother and the father, not just as a guidance, but above than the guidance. So then they can see the function of father and mother more comprehensively. Then they will act accordingly, right? Like respect, like obey. So those kind of action that we can expect, yeah, from the children. There are some situation. I just want to share with you. When I have my children was so little, and my children were so little. Sometimes I make some not to say criticism, right? Not to critiques or not to say complaints or comments. It is more some sort of point to be considered. Yeah, you know, when I have three children, when they get together, sometimes they reluctantly to share the laugh, they share the discussion among them, but they're willing to spend more time discussing, share the love, share the stories with their peers at school. So I try to justify with them and why you can share with your friends your happiness, your stories, your thinking, your thought, your laugh with your peers. Why can't you bring that inside in the family so that you can have a similar situation in some similar interesting situation in both sides with your friends as well as at home, so that you can create the positive environment in the family, and then slowly they learn about it. Oh, then they start to share their love together. So this is what we expect, sometimes, especially as an educators and as a teacher. So we just, because in many situations we consider ourselves not just an educators or as a teacher, but we also need to consider ourselves as a learner at the same time. Yeah? Learner at the same time, because we learn from the environment and then try to create what is best for them. Yeah? But what is best for them. Okay. I mean, I just want to share with you sometimes, when you have your own family, your own kids, at least you can reflect through this one. Yeah. Now, cognition involves thinking, position, the same way, like I said at the beginning. Now, look at these expectancy theories. I did mention about this one in some points. Yeah. Motivation may depend on two variables. The first one, student must believe he or she will be successful. That is the expectancy. Okay, the expectancy theory. Some of you may have been discussed about the expectancy theories, and then the other one is student must believe there are benefits in performing the task. So at least two situations here. The first one, they must believe that he will be successful, right? So that's why this is related to the competencies. They need to be confident, right? They need to be like the way they see themselves as competent, right? This will tells them that they have the ability to be successful. If they fail to see, if they fail to have the belief that they have the competency, this will affect to their understanding about being successful. because they know that they think that they don't know how to, they don't have the ability to accomplish the task. So how could they have the belief that they will be successful at the end? So this is some kind of related understanding, right? Related understanding. First, they must believe that they have the ability. Okay, when they confidence, when they understand that they have the ability, then they can have the belief that they will be successful at the end. If they don't feel that, if they don't feel the ability in themselves, they feel that they are incompetent, they don't have the ability, how could they say be successful at the end? So that's the situation, right? Before they can have the understanding that they can be successful, they need to have the understanding that they have the ability or the competency. And then the next level, not just looking at the expectation at the end, they also need to understand or to have the understanding that the benefits, the values, the values of such behavior. Like, for example, like homework or specific activities or specific exercises in a specific topic, in a specific topic of the schools. So, of course, they need to understand that themselves as somebody, as a students that have the ability to complete, or ability to learn, the ability to understand, the ability to ask questions. All right. So those are the specific requirement before they can see there is a successful chances at the end, right? So to be set, and then in this the next level, what they need to see is the value. What is the point of doing this, right? What is the point of doing this? Is there any value of doing this? Oh, this is very good activities. These are very good exercises. If I can master this, I can get a good result. If I can master this, I can teach my friend. I can share with my friend who's still having problem with this task. So that is how they see things, the connection between the belief, right? The belief. So that's why, like I said at the beginning, right? In order to change the human's behavior, yeah. Where is it? Hang on. This one. Okay. In order to change the human behavior, right? Human behavior, we need to change the beliefs first, and then we can expect the attitudes will be changed, and then how they see the values of the actions. So the ability to have a good belief, the positive beliefs and the positive attitudes, and then seeing a good value in what they were doing, that will help them, yeah, help them in engaging in certain activities. Okay. Now look at this one. Back to this one. So that's why the belief is so important, right? The belief, the understanding. Oh, I can do this. So in order to do this, I know how to do. If I don't know how to do, I should ask this. I should ask this. I should go here. Should go there. Those are the skills that they have to have at the beginning before they can see the belief about successful. Okay. This is the concepts of motivation, internalized motivation. As children grow older, they tend to adopt many of the priorities and values of people around them. So, like I said, really, they learn from the environment through observation, through observation. So, imitation, just name it. So, you can see that how people, I mean, especially the children, grow, yeah, with the experiences. So that's why, in order to make sure that they grow as we expected, so we need to provide a very conducive environment. Yeah, and, I mean, aligned to what to align to what we expect them to grow. So it should align to our expectation, what we want them to be. So we provide those environments, right? The environments to them. Like, let's say, for example, we want them to be a good believer. As a Muslim, we expect them to grow as a good Muslim. As a Buddhist, yeah? Ching, are you Buddhist, Ching? Korea?
A
Are
daughter.
you Buddhist or Confucius or
Because
hello,
I'm here.
Ching? Yeah.
Yeah. I'm here.
What are you? You Confucius or Buddhist or
Mm,
what is your belief? I'm sorry. I just want to make that as an example, so not to
it's okay.
personally ask you, right?
Um, I think sometimes if I want something and in the future it can be true, I believe it's worse. What do you believe? You can get it.
If I can ask your religion, if you don't mind for me to ask your religion.
Oh, my religion?
Yeah. Is it okay if I ask you that? If you don't mind?
Yes, doctor, it's okay.
Yeah. Now, if you don't want to share, it's fine. Okay, I just want to give an example. All right, Shane.
I got it, doctor. Thank you.
Yeah. Like I said, when we expect, I mean, from the expectation, right? Like this one, right? The expectancy theory. So, what is the expectation? Like we as an educators, like anyone, we just like a teacher, parents at home. The expectation will determine, right? Will determine the types of behavior created within the children. So what do we expect? Like for example, as a Muslim, we expect them to grow, right? To grow up as a good Muslim. As a Buddhist, maybe we have the expectation for them to grow as a good Buddhist or a good Hindus, Christians. So it depends on how we believe, okay? So that is the expectation. So, in order to materialize the expectation, we should provide what so-called a conducive environment so that they can learn, right? So that they can learn and develop, okay? Develop and such behavior. So this is what we mean by the expectation, okay? Now, again, like this one, internalized motivation develops in the following sequence: external regulation, introjection, identification, integration. Those are the examples, right? The example to show how people learn from the environment. Okay? I mean, when we talk about the external regulation, learners are motivated by the possibility of external rewards. You see, external rewards, it is related to us, the environment that we created for them. And then introjection. Learners are motivated by the approval of others, right? Some internal motivation developing. So this is the way how we create the conducive environment. And then identification. Some activities begin to be important and valuable. So how they get this identification to say this is important, this is valuable, this is from the environment, the feedback from the environment. Okay, the feedback from us as parents, the feedback from us as peers, the feedback from us as teachers. So those are the process of learning and looking and understanding that the behavior, right, is considered as important and valuable. And then another one is the integration. You see the sequence here? The external regulation comes to the introjection and then identification, and then finally the integration, right? Learners have accepted the desirability of certain behaviors and integrated them into an overall system of motives and values, becoming their own behavior. Okay, their own behavior. See, this is the process or the sequence of developing the internalized motivation. Okay, the internalized motivation. The external regulation, where the learner from the environment learn from the environment, yeah, through the experiences, and then later the second stage, try through introjection, where the learner motivated by the approval of others, how the environment responded to their behavior, and then slowly identify the importance and how the value of the behavior before they can integrate all those understanding from the internalization, from the feedback from the environment, integrating them together, becoming finally their own behavior. So this is the accepted behavior. This is the behavior that the environment or the society is expected from us, right? So you see the sequence of that, how people develop the internalized motivation. Yeah. Conscious decisions by individuals to behave in certain ways, individual values with regard to choosing desired outcomes, the individual expectation concerning the amount of effort required to achieve a specific outcome, individual expectation concerning the probability of being rewarded for achieving a desired outcome. See, now slowly the individual, the children learn about the values, right, the beliefs, and then slowly they come out to a level where they can set their own expectation, right? At the beginning, the expectation sometimes, come from the outside, from parents, how we train them, how we provide them a very conducive environment to show the expectation, what we want them to be. And then slowly throughout the process, they slowly develop their own, they can create their own expectation. They know how to make use of the expectation. So this is what we expect and through the expectation. Now, in understanding this, motivation is a function of relationship between effort expended and perceived level of performance. And then number two, the expectation that rewards will be related to performance. So two different things, two different but related things. The first one is the efforts, and then the second one is the perceived level of performance. So this is related to the understanding of motivation. So you can see that how they perceive the level of performance, how they can achieve, how they have the ability to achieve, and then how they see the element of successful, and then relates to the efforts expanded, how they put efforts on it. These two will show the strength of motivation, right? The strength of motivation. If they put really, full efforts in engaging in the activities, this is to show that the motivation is really high. Okay, the motivation is really high. But of course, how we can measure, how we can see the efforts, how they spend the efforts. Again, we should look into the perception of the performance, how they have the perception, how they perceive the activity, how they perceive the efforts, how the way they see, like this one. Yeah, remember this? Right? How they perceive that one. Whether if I do this seriously, if I engage in this activity fully, I can expect at the end I will be successful. I can finish these exercises. I can complete this homework. So this will tell us about this connection between the efforts expanded and then the perceived performance. Yeah, perceived performance. So the expectation of the rewards at the end. And then with this, you can see from the efforts expanded. Yeah, they expanded. There's something like two different but related condition. Yeah, related condition. If you want to illustrate the connection, you can see there the force, yeah, of the motivation from this formula: effort, required performance, and then outcome. So those three things. Yeah. Then if you want to put into formula to measure the force of the motivation is by looking at the valence and the expectancy. Yeah. You have to multiply this with the valence and expectancy to see the force. Yeah? The force is the strength of motivation, and valence is the strength of preference for and outcomes, the values, multiply with expectancy. The expectancy is the level of belief that changes in behavior will achieve the required outcome, right? Whether they think the action will create successful at the end. So this is to show how to measure the force and the force of motivation. So remember, to measure the motivation, the force of motivation, yeah, the strength of motivation by multiplying the values, how they believe that this action is useful, this action is required, this action is very, very interesting. Multiply with the expectancy, right? If I do this, I will get the result. If I do this, I will get the output, right? The successful. The connection between these two will tell the strength of motivation that the people have. Yeah? I mean, you can expect that in the students. So how to measure their motivation, right? By looking at how they value the activities, right? Like I will mention about, oh, this is a repetition. I've done this. This is something that just refresher. So you see, I mean, you don't want to engage with the activity because you know this is kind of repetition. We don't value this as something new. And then if we fail to address this, and then the next one, like expectancy, the belief of successful at the end is diminished, right? Will disappear because that's why you don't put any effort. You just follow, and then the strength of motivation is not that high, right? It's not that high because you just follow as being asked by the teacher, right? By the teacher. And then the other one is goal setting theory. This is again related to this one, yeah? Goal setting theory. How people set the goals, right? How people set the goals as a source of motivational processes. Depends on how you set the goals, right? Achieving goals leads to the feelings of success and competence. So you set the goals. That's why sometimes you set the goals like this one: performance goal, performance approach, performance avoidance. It depends on how you set the goals. Sometimes we set the goals that so high, but unrealistic goals. Unrealistic goals. So the way we set the goals should reflect to our beliefs, our understanding about ourselves. So that's why we will set more realistic goals. Realistic goals. Realistic goals. Then because the goals, it depends on our ability. So if we set so high, something like unachievable, yeah, cannot be achieved. But because we want to please other people, we set the goals. We know that we can't achieve that at the end. So there is no point. Sometimes we actually decreasing the strength of motivation, right? The strength of motivation. But if we know that the goal is achievable, reasonable, can be achieved, of course, that can increase the strength of motivation, right? Because we know that we can achieve, although this is hard, but I know I can do it. So we will put efforts on it, meaning the motivation strength is increased. But if we know that, well, this is crazy goal, I can achieve this, I can afford to do this. So see, the strength of motivation is decreased. Yeah, we don't even put efforts on it because we know that whatever we do, this is unrealistic. Okay, unrealistic, something like that. So looking at the different goals, like performance goal, performance approach, performance avoidance, this is how people set the goals. Performance goal designed to make good impression and perform well, may experience anxiety and shy away from tasks that are overly challenging. Now, performance approach designed to look good in front of others. Okay, if we set like this, performance approach. So we want to see, to look good in front of others, but we fail to address the main objective of the goal. And then the other one is performance avoidance, a desire not to look bad. This is another one, yeah. You just get along with other people, get along with other people. Yeah. Although you don't know how to do, but because of your approach is performance avoidance. In other words, you don't want to look bad, right, from others, from teachers. You get along with others and to show that, oh, you know everything, you know something, something like that. So yeah, you have seen amongst your colleagues, I'm sure, I'm pretty sure that you can look back to your colleagues, where they try to get busy around you, around these group activities, but in fact, they don't know anything, right? They just don't want to look bad, when the teachers realizing that they don't know anything, but because of performance avoidance approach. So this is what the actions that we can expect. We can expect. So try to find an examples. This is just an exercise. Yeah? Try to find an examples for each of these. Yeah, performance goals. What kind of action that we can expect, and then performance approach. What action can we expect from this, and then performance avoidance. Like I mentioned earlier. Try to find out the examples of the behaviors. Yeah, you can look back to your personal experiences before, and how, what kind of actions, and then in what kind of context, so that you can come up with a good example for differentiating three types of approach. Approach. The first one, performance goal, and performance approach, and then performance avoidance. Okay, to see the differences in terms of behavior expanded by the individual. Okay, any questions? This is what I mentioned earlier, right? Assign or set specific goals. Specific goals. What we mean by specific goals is the goal is very clear, right? Very clear and reasonable, can be seen, and then can be achieved. And assign or set difficult yet attainable goals. So this is another thing, right? We need to understand between difficult tasks, difficult exercises, and with the but maintaining attainable goals. So something like the most challenging exercises, the most challenging tasks, but still we know the students or the individual can achieve. That is very, very important to differentiate between what we call effective goal setting, right? The levels, everything, we need to understand the ability of the students. Involve students in their goal setting. So we try our best to involve the students in setting the goal. Yeah. Provide feedback on goal attainment. Don't forget to provide feedback. Why this objective or the exercises is completed in the wrong way. So we need to provide the feedback, right? And then goal commitment is enhanced when goals are public, self-set, when you will have internal locus of control. Yeah? Locus of control. So they have their own understanding that they are in control of the activity. Yeah, in control of the activity. They know that their ability, they know what to do, they know how to do. So this is what we mean by enhancing the effectiveness of goal setting. Another one related to that is the attribution, right? How we attribute. Remember the first one? Okay, the attribution, how we attribute. This, the attribution theory, right? How we attribute it, whether we attribute as in an internal or external factors. So look at this one. Yeah? The attribution, yeah. So if you look at this one, right? If we attribute, maybe like I said, if we attribute the cause of certain action because of the external factors or because of the internal factors, that will tell us, that will show how the efforts will be invented. Yeah, the efforts will be invented by the individual. So if we say that you know the cause of certain action because of the external factors. So sometimes, when we talk about the external factors, it's something uncontrollable. We cannot control anything. The external factors, like like learning, right? If we fail to finish these exercises, for example, we attribute the failure of finishing the exercises because of the question is so hard given by the teacher, right? So hard given by the teacher. So something like, this is uncontrollable. This is not my fault of not finishing the exercises because the teachers gave me the hard question. This is, the question is so hard. I don't know how to do it because the teachers think I know how to do it. So this is how we attribute the failure of finishing the exercises. But if we attribute the failure of finishing the exercises because of me, right? I failed to ask the teacher. I failed to discuss with my friends. I failed to discuss with the teacher how to complete the exercises. So this is something controllable, right? This is something internal, controllable. And then in order to improve this, so I should do this. Great, right. I have identified the several causes internally. Yeah, I didn't ask my teachers. I didn't ask my students and my peers. I didn't discuss this with my teachers. I didn't discuss with my peers. Oh, and then I need to discuss with my teachers. So then you can start inventing, right? Inventing this related behavior, right? Start asking the teachers, start discussing with the teachers, start asking with the peers, start discussing with the peers. You can see that people start inventing, right? Intentionally, right? Intentionally to invent specific behavior related to accomplishing the exercises. So those are the two situations, how we attribute, whether it is the external attribution or the internal attribution. If we attribute as an external attribute, we consider that as uncontrollable, right? Uncontrollable condition, right? Uncontrollable condition. But if we consider that we attribute the failure or the situation as in an internal, we start to consider the problem as controllable, because the internal is about ourselves. So meaning I can control myself. But if I attribute that as the external factors or external causes, like teachers or the environment, so how could I control the teachers? Something like that. It's uncontrollable. So try to differentiate that, and then slowly you can understand why people doing this way, why people doing that way, because of the way they attribute their failure. Okay. This is another explanation. If students attribute success to stable factors, they believe they will always be successful. If failure is attributed to internal factors, students will believe they will always fail. Right? So this is another thing. Success and failures attributed to unstable factors may not really impact expectation for future references. So how we actually, right, justify and then rationalize with the students is very, very important. Okay, how we rationalize with them the failure that they are experiencing. So this is will influence their future expectation. Okay, their future expectation. So don't forget that. And efforts persistent. Yeah. Um, if you look back to the 6 learning types in Tolman, so I think you can read from this. Yeah. Now, what I want to highlight here is the implication to education. Agree most in terms of understanding the human behavior, right? Human behavior. We agree mostly with Gestaltists. You know, Gestaltists looking at the whole picture, right? If you look back to the Gestalt theory, yeah, Gestalt theory, I suggest you to look back to the Gestalt theory, where people tend to see overall manner first before they can see you know, the more smaller the smaller parts of the situation. So like for example, the theories of proximity, similarity, so those are the concepts of Gestalt theory, to where people can understand the whole concepts by looking at the singular points within certain concepts. And so, in order to make people understand, yeah, make people always have a positive attitudes, a positive beliefs, positive expectation, they need to see in the overall patterns, in the overall patterns. So, like for example, having the whole process of the end, like the sign of successful at the end. So that is the whole picture. So these activities can relate to the successful at the end. So people can see the connection as a whole, and then slowly they start to invent some efforts in between. So that's what we meant. And then emphasis on importance of thinking and understanding. Yeah, don't forget in the cognitive components of motivation. So we need to consider about thinking and understanding. Yeah. So in the classroom activities, try to consider small groups of class discussion. Teacher acts as consultant to clarify, confirm, or disconfirm. Yeah? So that's why now people, you know, educators are considered as the facilitator, facilitator, no longer teachers. But how we define teachers, how we define the educators is again come back to the source of teaching and learning activities. Yeah? So the objective of teaching and learning activities. So how we can see that as a whole. And then students should be exposed to topics from different viewpoints. So this is another thing, you know, how people need to see from viewpoint, a different perspective, so that they can learn specific problems, specific activities, specific behavior in a wider perspective. And that's why, at the end of the day, we expect that it becomes wiser. So because the situation comes all the time in different contexts, in different situation, different perspective, but it happens all the time. It happens all the time. So in order for them to survive, they need to see that from different views so that they can adjust themselves, they can assimilate this themselves, or even they can accommodate themselves into a different view, different situation. And of course, here we would like to address the extrinsic reinforcement is unnecessary for learning to take place. So, not to say the extrinsic reinforcement. Now we start talking about extrinsic and intrinsic. Intrinsic. So, how we see extrinsic and intrinsic. Sometimes these two perspective comes hand in hand. Comes hand in hand. So not to say the extrinsic is better than intrinsic or intrinsic better than extrinsic, but in the real situation, these two always come hand in hand, works together. The same way like understanding about the human development between nurture and nature. Nurture and nature. So this is not to say or to argue that nature is better than or the best, the most effective than nurture, but normally in the real situation it comes hand in hand, right? It comes together. So that is the implication that I think I can highlight for now in regards to the components, the cognitive components of motivation, meaning in order to create or in order to produce a specific behavior, human engage in the thinking processes. So they need to process information in order to understand the situation and the requirement before they can start thinking what kind of behavior or what kind of action that they need to consider. All right. So this is the processes. I hope that by looking at this one, at least you can understand, certain theories like attribution theories, and then goal setting theories, as well as the expectancy theories. How those theories related to how the thinking processes happens in the mind of the individual. All right. With that, any question? Any question? Again, I'll make up the list in the WhatsApp group and for you to list down the topics for your articles, so that you can see whether there's a similarities or differences between the issues that you plan to address in your articles, or even maybe you can see from the list to discuss or to share the understanding or the information, right? Sometimes you have some information in the topics of your friend's article, and maybe you can share with your friend. Okay, since you were writing about this, I have some information on this. I can share with you on something like this. That is the purpose of the list. Okay. All right then. Any more? Any question? And the next meeting we will discuss about the learn, the third components, learn components and learn components. So we will also discuss about how the development of motivation from the perspective of experiences, how the people learn from past experiences. Okay, so try not to see the biological cognitive learn as a separate entity, right? Separate entity, because what we were discussing here is about human, right? Comprises of cognitive, comprises of physical, biological, comprises of the learning from the experiences. So we're talking about the same person, same entity, but from different perspective. Yeah, from cognitive perspective, from biological perspective, as well as from the learning perspective. So actually, we're talking about the same individual. Okay, so try not to see that as the separate entities, but just a three different perspective in understanding how people are behaving, yeah, from the perspective of cognitive, learn, and the biological. Yeah, what is really happening in the person. Okay. Any question? Yes, please.
Okay, this is for the group assignment. Okay, my group, Korea and Ching Ching, we have decided motivational issues regarding procrastination, learn helplessness, and disengagement.
Mm-hmm.
So we choose, but we haven't choose or find the articles or case study regarding the related with the motivational issues. So is it
Okay.
we pick like 3 motivational issues in the classroom?
It's okay. I put up the list first and see how. Okay, you list down the, I mean, whatever it is, the title or the topics that you think that you are interested of exploring. So list it down and see how. Right. I hope that by looking at the list, and at least you can get some ideas. Okay, about the similarities, and maybe we can discuss about the issues, and then how we can explore the issues, and then how we can get the information from, where we can get the information from, what kind of materials that we should have, we should have in exploring the issues, so that kind of things. Okay, can we just make like that? We
Okay.
make the list first and then see how, right? Okay, so that the title is visible to all, to all. Anything else?
Doctor, I have a question.
Yeah.
Since this is a case study, should we like conduct any questionnaire, any research at school?
That is the first expectation actually. So, but during this pandemic, everything is messed up, and mobility from places is limited, and then especially accessing to schools also limited, and so that's why we changed from the site observation, like conducting survey, to something like concept articles, right? Concept article addressing the issues of motivation by providing related references, right? Related references instead of site observation. Last time we expect that we can observe in the classroom, and then we can distribute a survey, questionnaire, interviews. But now everything is very restricted and limited. So we change it to the like a concept paper, right? Like writing or addressing specific issues in motivation. So for now, I think the best way, like listing down the topics and article, then we can make comments from that. Okay. You haven't started yet? Have you started that yet? Not yet. Okay, good. Okay, still have time. Now we in second parts of semester, so I think it should be okay. All right. Okay. Anything else? If no, and I think that's all for today. And don't forget to do simple exercise. No need to upload in the. If I think that if you need some space to upload, I will set the forum for you to upload the one that I asked you to do just now. What was that? The hang on. right? The performance, how we set the goals, how people set the goal, like performance goal, performance approach, or performance avoidance. So try to come up with the specific examples of behaviors, how people, when they set performance goal, this kind of behavior will appear. If they set the performance approach, these types of behavior will appear. And then if they set themselves as the activity as a performance avoidance, these types of behavior will be invented. So make that as a very simple exercises and try to find examples. And then if you think that you want to have a space to upload, so I will set the forum for you to upload. Okay. And don't forget, next week we will discuss about the next topic and then components of motivation.
Okay, Doc, sorry, I've got a question.
Yes, please.
Okay, as for the reflections 1 and 2, right, Doc? We can't seem to find the due date.
All right. I think you can check from the course information. Right? Check information. I think I have set the due date for the reflection 1 and 2, and if I'm not mistaken, in the course information. You check from the course information.
Okay, Doc, we will check because we did go through a couple of us, we couldn't find it. So okay, we will check again. Anything, we will update you on in the group again.
Actually,
Thanks, Doc.
we expect that you finish it before the semester break. If I'm not mistaken, it should be finished by week 7 before the semester break, right? So if you still unsure or uncertain about the dates, try to prepare that as soon as possible, because we are now in the second parts of the semester. Okay.
Okay,
I will update with you from this one, about the submission.
Okay. Thanks, Doc. Thanks so much.
All right. Okay then. So thank you very much for your time. Have a nice day, and Assalamualaikum. Have a nice rest. Okay.
Okay, thank you,
Thank you very much, all.
Thank you.
Waalaikumsalam.